was R.J. Barrett, and of course the reason for R.J. is his efficiency is not where it could be. Zion was like crazy high. Obviously, he was near. He was either elite or near.
But John Morant's dad looks like he could be a fucking draft pick. Right? He looks pretty young.
Ja was.
Look at him.
Yeah.
He is pretty young. Ja was pretty elite, especially in efficiency, but needs to work on defense a little bit more. So it was pretty interesting to see that. I'm not going to take that over, every scout's opinion, but it's interesting to see what the advanced stats say.
Jackson Hayes.
The scouts say.
538 does a pretty good job, and it's kind of unique when they break it down statistic-wise. So the pick is in for New York, ladies and gentlemen, so let's see what happens.
Was it Jackson Hayes, the person you were talking about, O'Shea?
I don't think so.
Center from Texas?
Oh, you know what? It might have been.
Oh, there.
Yeah, it was. It was Jackson Hayes, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I know it wasn't Hachimura.
Do you know what happened the last time the Knicks drafted a player who wasn't very good at shooting?
It was Frank Ntilikina.
His name is Frank Ntilikina. He's getting fucking traded tonight.
There you go.
Oh, goddamn. Anyways, so
guy,
here comes Adam Silver, the alien. Is he an alien?
It seems like he would be.
The New York Knicks select Carmelo Anthony.
Might as well at this point.
I mean, the good thing about RJ is that Steve Nash is his godfather.
And it's RJ Barrett. Fucking.
He could always train with Steve Nash.
Why are you guys so excited for a guy who can't fucking shoot?
He can shoot. He's just not that efficient. He takes good shots and he takes a lot of bad shots.
He takes too many bad shots. Anyways, I'm over this fucking Knicks bullshit.
So back to the finals.
Really quickly, one last thing. Knicks with pick 55. A couple of names that I've heard the Knicks could draft. Taco Fall, which doesn't make sense. They don't need a big guy like him. He's kind of clumsy.
You're just drafting for potential because he's listed as like a potential defensive powerhouse with that height, and it could be a potential trade piece or something. You never know what'll happen.
The other name that came up, they say, toward that part of the NBA draft, they really don't necessarily care about the players they're drafting. So usually, you'll see the good stories. So don't be surprised if Scotia's own Joe Cremo from UAlbany and Villanova gets drafted by the Knicks with pick 55.
There you go.
Well, he can shoot.
That's all he can do is shoot.
Yeah, maybe that's what they figured. We'll get one that can do everything but shoot, and then we'll get one that can only shoot. It'll balance out to one complete player.
Buckets.
Sure. That works.
Can you do buckets?
RJ can shoot. He just takes dumb shots. That's the problem. He takes shots when he shouldn't. So
that's the difference between him.
With NBA caliber talent, he'll continue to pass more, and he's a good passer.
I mean, when you have Zion Williamson on your team, you better be a good fucking passer. But when I say he's a good shooter, I mean more than just does he have a nice looking shot. I mean, does he have a good eye for when he should be shooting? That's what puts Ja Morant way above him. Ja doesn't take stupid shots unless it's desperation time. Like the very end of a game.
Comparing him to Jalen Rose, that's insulting.
Oh, God.
Comparing him to a podcast?
Even if he's inefficient, he's not Jalen Rose.
What do you mean he's not Jalen Rose? What's wrong with Jalen Rose?
He's better. RJ will be better.
No? Well, we'll see. Anyways, now we're going to get back to the NBA Finals, and it's going to sound like a lot less of a shit show with us just rambling about fucking RJ Barrett. I'm done.
Can't do it anymore.
I can't do it anymore. So the NBA Finals.
are over.
They are over. And boy, were we fucking wrong.
Yeah.
I believe Tony said that the Raptors would lose in 5. Pretty sure Dan O'Shea said he thinks it's a sweep. He could see the Raptors taking one in Toronto. Dan Beebe and I said sweep. I said 3 games. Beebe said 4. We were all fucking wrong.
Clean sweep Golden State.
Well, no one saw both Clay and KD going down.
I mean, Kevin Durant was hurt when we made those predictions, though.
Yeah, saying an asterisk, like, I do totally get it, but at the same time, that is one of the things to win. You have to stay healthy, and, the Warriors got scared, pushed KD back in, which if I were him, I wouldn't have gone back in, and I would have gotten a second opinion. I can't believe you didn't get a second opinion from someone other than the team doctors who...
I've heard conflicting reports. I've heard he pressured the doctors to clear him. I've also heard that they rushed him back. So I don't know. I'm not going to speculate because I've heard both.
I mean, I guess either one of them is possible. I don't know. It just didn't... Certainly didn't help him, that's for sure.
No, and it fucked the Knicks, most likely.
I mean, that seems possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still just don't. It still doesn't seem like a completely fulfilled actual championship to me. It just leaves something more to be desired, in my opinion, because they weren't going up against what was and is the best team in the NBA at full strength. I mean, it just leaves me wanting something for the championship to be there. But I mean, I guess you can't take it away from them. They're the champions regardless of whatever the hell I think. So
that is correct, and also the Golden State Warriors, their model lately has been, screw quality bench play. And the Raptors just, outside of the second game, they really just squeezed every little bit they could get out of every player. And it worked. Their bench was superior. And I'm hoping that we're going to see that model again in the future so that we're not seeing teams load up on superstars who are going to have to, injure themselves and neglect bench and depth.
Well, the bench proved how important it truly is. I mean, in theory, the Golden State would have had a pretty decent bench to use, but when you have to use them as starters, it changes the argument. But bench is proving to be more and more important, especially in 7-game series, because you can't tire everybody out, and you need different looks. You need to switch it up on teams and keep them off balance. I mean, to be honest, that is what I think that Toronto did the best job of in that championship series, and that's one of the key reasons they won that series.
You want to know the reason they lost when the last time they had Kevin Durant, or they didn't have Kevin Durant, they won? They don't have Zaza Pachulia.
Oh, yeah.
He was the key to the start of the Warriors dynasty, and they just kicked him to the curb.
Those bastards. It's like
I'm just kidding. It was Harrison Barnes.
It was Harrison.
It was entirely Harrison Barnes. But yeah, so Kawhi Leonard's fucking insane. Is Kawhi Leonard the best player in the NBA, or was he the best player in the NBA last season? He looked it in the postseason.
I mean, it certainly seems like it, given the fact they hoisted the trophy. I do think KD was more efficient, but KD's team was also better. But then, there's the argument that KD had to go through the West, where Kawhi had to go through the East. But at the end of the day, he's got the trophy and the Finals MVP. I don't think he's going to get the regular season MVP, though?
Most likely not.
It's hard for me to say that he wasn't the best player in the NBA because it's hard for me to think of another player in the NBA this year that meant more to his team than Kawhi did. Because without Kawhi, they don't get there. They don't get to where they are in the final or in the playoffs. They maybe make the playoffs if the team had stayed together. Maybe they do try and go forward and maybe get to the Eastern Conference Finals. But, I mean, without Kawhi, that shot doesn't go down in Philly. So,
that's a good point.
I mean, and then they don't go to the finals. So, I mean, Kawhi, I think, honestly, Kawhi meant more to his team than any other player. I mean, we can say LeBron, but that's great, but they didn't make the playoffs. We're talking about teams that made the playoffs, and if we're talking about the definition of MVP, in my opinion, it should be the player that's most valuable to their team as a whole. And in my opinion, that has to be Kawhi in this last season of the NBA.
So why not Giannis? The only reason I'm going to make this argument is because last year, even with LeBron in the East, the Raptors were the number 1 seed when they had Lowry and DeRozan. So why, if they hadn't made that trade and they still had Lowry and DeRozan without LeBron in the East, I think they still would have been the number 1 seed if Giannis wasn't an absolute fucking monster this year. So they would be my two. Would be Giannis and Kawhi.
I'm still thinking Kawhi just based on what happened and how it went down. Yes, I'm still sticking with Kawhi on that.
Okay. All right. Dan Beebe, what do you think for best player in the NBA this last season? Was it Kawhi or was it someone else?
I think you have to give it to Kawhi. Just overcoming all that to get to the championship alone.
I mean,
he's really this is where he's really made a name for himself this year.
I mean, he definitely reaffirmed what we've known from him, too. Like, we saw what he did when he was in San Antonio, and he proved that wasn't a product of the system. Like BB said, he proved himself this year and established himself that he can take a team, as long as there's pieces around him, to a finals and win it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the system or otherwise. He's successful, and the dude wins. He's a fighter, and that was shown this season alone. So I'm with BB on that one.
I put so much more stock into someone who can get the job done and win ugly than I do someone who loses beautifully. My best example that I have is Ben Roethlisberger.
Oh, man.
These past few years hasn't done shit in terms of wins, but he still lights it up. 400-yard games, 500-yard games. But he's losing. Whereas you take a guy like... And I know, Dan O'Shea, you're probably going to laugh, but Josh McCown did exactly what was needed of him. It was ugly, and he got them 6 wins when I thought they'd get none.
Stepped it up.
Or 4 wins.
You mean you just appreciate a guy who's going to go out there and fight and...
You know what? Probably a better example.
Go down swinging.
Yeah, give a chance. Even if it's not going to be a dominating performance or anything like that, they're still at least going to give their team hope.
You're right. I think a better example I'm going to use is Lamar Jackson. I don't think he's a very good quarterback. I don't. I think he doesn't have the arm talent.
He's hard on himself, too.
He is. I don't think he has the arm talent that you need in the NFL. He did in college because you're playing against what? If you're playing against a college team, you're playing against maybe 8 professional caliber players, unless you play Alabama.
Yeah.
When you're in the NFL, you're playing against 53 professional caliber players. So in college it worked. His arm doesn't work in the NFL. But you know what? He's a fucking winner. 8 games, went 7-1.